welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about grooming behaviors. So as always, just a content warning that what is going to be talked about is sensitive topics, so just be mindful of that when you're watching this video. So my name is Jessica. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I talk on this channel all things related to trauma, the brain, attachment, healing. So if that is something that you're interested in, then go ahead and click the subscribe button down below so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Also ring that notification bell, because I think that's what actually does the notification. Subscribing just looks good on paper or what have you. I'm not exactly sure. But so you do need to do both of those things. Okay, so we are going to be talking about grooming behaviors. Now, grooming behaviors as it pertains to any type of predatory behavior, child sexual abuse, even, you know, hear it a lot with narcissists. The goal for the predator, the abuser, the narcissist, the person who is engaging in grooming behaviors is to manipulate the target. I don't really like to use the word victim. Some people don't like the word survivor. So for today, I'm just going to use the word target, but that is basically the person that the abuser is looking to harm. So the goal with the grooming behaviors is to manipulate their target by making them feel special. It's also designed to build trust and establish secrecy, and also to just gain repeated access to their intended target. So that's what the whole design of the grooming behaviors are. And typically when it comes to abusers, they will abuse somebody that they already know, somebody that they're already close with, somebody they already have a relationship with. So that's why you see a lot of abuse happening within family systems, family friends, things like that, because there's already a relationship that's built. But for the purpose of this video, I want to talk specifically about what's happening, especially with COVID and everything like that, online predators. So people going specifically online to engage and engage with their targets and use them for their own self-serving needs. So we have always had a problem with child predators, child sexual predators, specifically online. Typically it's used for human trafficking purposes, but also for like amateur porn sites, and also just for their own kind of sexual desires or sexual gratification. What exactly are grooming behaviors? I think that's probably the most important thing for you, for us to talk about. So I've already discussed that these are behaviors that are designed to manipulate the child, to manipulate the target, to get them into the predator's good graces and to increase access. So initially what happens with the abuser or the perpetrator, whatever phrase you want to use, is that they actually move in really slowly. So they don't just, you know, jump in there and, oh, you know, what's your phone number? They don't come off as creepy. Just like in person interactions, they typically don't come off as creepy in the beginning. What they kind of do is they're assessing for your vulnerability. So they're getting to know you, but the goal is not to get to know you in order to like build a positive relationship, or, you know, it's a healthy relational dynamic, right? This is a predator here. So what they're doing is they're trying to suss out, by getting to know you, what exactly are your vulnerabilities. So they typically pick on folks who already have some standard vulnerabilities. So those might just be, you know, children who feel like they're not loved, or feel like nobody likes them, or they have low self-esteem. I mean, these are very, very general type things, and I'm intentionally being general, but are being vague, but that's kind of what they're doing. And so what they do is they are getting in and getting to know you, getting to know the target, and instead of kind of making them feel worse about whatever their vulnerability is, they kind of they spin it in a way so that the person feels good. So if you know, let's say that, you know, child predators online, and they go and, you know, oh, hey, you know, Susie, you know, how are you doing? Like something super innocuous, right? Like it's not going to raise your red flag. Susie, oh, you know, I'm doing good. And then predators, oh, me too, I'm in, you know, it's a beautiful day. Or, you know, they keep it really general and, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a typical conversation. And then they'll start asking questions. So what are you doing today? You know, what's your favorite color? What do you do for fun? And, you know, just really simple, basic information. They might share some things like, oh, I'm having a hard day because my dog died or something, I just do something random out there. But what they start to do, again, the goal is for them to just get to know the person, try to figure out what that person's vulnerabilities are, and then that's what they're going to kind of play off of. Again, in the beginning, it's very, very innocent, right? They're just becoming their friend. That's all that they're building the relationship. But again, it's in a manipulative manner. It's not because they generally care or, are trying to have a reciprocal, supportive, healthy relational dynamic. And one of the reasons that they target people who are already vulnerable and then they play off of that vulnerability is because these folks are least likely to tell when it's all said and done, for a variety of reasons. Feeling like they don't have anybody, not feeling safe, feeling like they're the ones to blame, not having anybody that they feel like they can tell. I mean, there's a variety of reasons that folks don't disclose, but this is why the abusers, they cast this wide net, and then they try to figure out, okay, who is the person that I can kind of reel in. So after they go through and they kind of start building and establishing their relationship, part of that process also is for them to start having more access to the target. So they, after some time, they might get the person's email or their phone number, or, oh, let's talk again tomorrow at this time. So they start to have repeated interactions with them. And again, this is part of that relationship building process, but it's, again, a manipulation. Now, over time, again, it just kind of depends on how things are going. These folks are really good at kind of knowing their audience, knowing their targets, knowing just how fast or how slow to move around with things. But then they start, after they kind of establish that relationship, they're talking to the person more and more, they know their vulnerabilities, then they start to introduce some sexual content. Now, it's, again, they move about this in a slow way. This is not, oh, you want to have sex. It doesn't go from there. But it just kind of, they start doing things that assess where the person is in their curiosity or their journey. So, the truth that, that's hard for a lot of folks to understand is that children, teens, they are curious about bodies and they are curious about sex. You can, and I'll get into this later about kind of how you can kind of protect your child around that, but they are already curious. They see stuff in the media, they see your interactions, they want to know about these things, but they have a child's, or even a teen, a limited understanding about the connection between sexuality and your emotions and your cognition. I mean, it's really, really intricate, and kids tend to be very, very abstract. Very concrete, and a lot of sex and things like that can be a little bit abstract, so it's a little bit hard for them to understand. But what the predator is doing is trying to assess how much this person knows with regard to sex and touching and things of that nature, and how willing they are to go about engaging and exploring their own natural curiosities. And so the perpetrator, again, they use a variety of kind of ways to assess this, and it's kind of hard to explain it. I might do a very specific video, but I feel like it's really abstract. But I could probably do it if I sat down and thought about it, about the ways in which a predator might pick up on some of these things with a child or even a teen, so that they know kind of how fast or how slow to go. But it really is kind of like a cat and mouse type of game. They're pretty good at going off of going off the reaction of the person. It's not like a template or anything like that. They just kind of know. And so anyway, they are not going to just go explicitly with sexual materials, but again, they're going to kind of assess out what the person's curiosity levels are. And so they might start showing like images, or and again, not pornography, but it might just be like people kissing, or they might ask have you ever kissed anybody, or do your parents, they just ask those certain questions. And if a child kind of puts up the resistance, like, oh, no, I don't want to hear that or whatever, then they'll back off. And, oh, I just knew you're curious, and, sorry, they do that. And so they kind of go back to the start of the relationship and do that repair. So it breaks down the resistance, if the child has, or the teen already has resistance. If they don't really have any resistance because this person seems nice, they're not doing anything creepy, they're not, scaring them in any way, they might make them feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not enough that it raises like those red flags. Again, it's a slow introduction into sexual materials and it's different than in person, because in person they start with the sexual kind of introduction is usually in the form of more physical contact, so hugs, maybe a kiss like on a cheek, things like, a hug that lingers too long, a kiss that's on the cheek or makes you feel weird, or a kiss on the lips that's a little too long, like little, walking in on them when they're changing, little things. They're not little in terms of they are not good behaviors, but little in terms of the progression. They're not as extreme as the actual overt act of physically touching or physically using penetration or anything like that. So with an online space, that piece is not there, so they get really sophisticated in how they go about assessing whether the person is engaged and willing to kind of go along with things. And so as it kind of progresses and they go from just playing on the natural curiosities, then they might start showing images, or they might go and encourage the child to do certain things to themselves or undress or things like that. Oftentimes they will even, because again, remember, the playing off the person's natural curiosities, as well as their vulnerabilities. If there's a sibling in the house or a friend, then they, what about your friend so-and-so? Like they're even so good that they can, and that's part of that relationship building part is, who else can I rope into this? Sometimes it's solo, but oftentimes they rope them in. They rope in another person. And so this might lead to the initial target bringing in a friend or a sibling and then doing something to that friend or that sibling on camera. The person's recording it. Now you've got your amateur pornography, or you've got your, their self-pleasure pornography that they can watch later on. And once the person's kind of, the target's already done that once, they may stop, but there's oftentimes they kind of berate them and coerce them into more and more actions, and now they've got a shame spiral going on. In more extreme cases, again, this is not a minimization, it's all awful, but in more extreme cases, what will happen is that then they'll start meeting the person, the target, in person. This is not usually with little ones, 8, 9, 10. It can be, but you're talking, this is more typically like 10, 11, 12, people who are either just about to approach puberty or they've already entered into puberty, because then the chances that they're going to be able to go out without their parents knowing is a little bit, it's a higher likelihood. Like most folks don't let their 8, 9-year-olds kind of go off on their own, but your 12-year-old, your 11-year-old, okay, yeah, you're gonna go walk down to your friend's house, and they're a little bit more sophisticated about lying. So then that's where you get more into that human trafficking or prostitution, those type of acts, it stems from this part in the beginning. So that's kind of the more extreme. And I'm not going to obviously get into the more extreme, but this is why the grooming part is so important. And it's done not just, it's pretty much done no matter whether the abuser is looking for somebody strictly online or they're doing it in person. Because it's all about building the relationship, building the trust, increasing access, and then maintaining that secrecy so that the person can continue on with the abuse. So that's the ultimate goal. So look, if you kind of keep that in your head as a parent, a caregiver, a teacher, whomever, of okay, the perpetrator's goal, yes, obviously it's sexual stimulation, but it's to continue to have access and to not be told on with that child. Then you can start to see where some of how the grooming is linked and ways in which you can protect your child. Okay. So probably the most important part of this video, besides what is grooming behaviors, are what can you as a parent do to protect your child, or caregiver, to protect your child from online predators and, preventing this grooming behavior from happening. So number one, probably the most important, is to have open communication with your child from the beginning. This is really hard, I know, but there's so many resources online for what you can do to kind of talk to your child about their body in a developmentally appropriate way. So having them understand like what the names of their body parts are, helping them understand what consent is, and having them be able to say what's private, what's private, what's sorry, not private, but what's allowed and what's not allowed, rules and beliefs around kind of their body and who gets to see their body and who has access to the body, things of that nature. An extension from that is to have very real conversations, not very real, I mean, developmentally appropriate conversations with your child about child predators online. Not in a way that's going to be scary and freak them out, but in a way that helps them be aware that there are people on the internet who just don't do nice things. Some people do nice things and some people don't. And some of these people who try to do nice things, they are not nice people. They pretend to be nice people, but they're really not. And so you want to kind of have those types of conversations fairly regularly with your child. And help them kind of know what to look for, and that you essentially also want to make sure that you are a safe person that your child will come and talk to, so that if something does happen. So you want to have a balance of like, this is child predators, this is kind of their goal, and another, the other part of that of, if that it's normal for them to kind of be curious about bodies and sex and things like that. But if somebody comes online and they're asking, somebody you don't know, essentially kind of comes into their life and they seem nice and then they start kind of talking about these things, even though they're curious, that's a sign that that person's not a good person and that you want them to come talk to you about it, and that you'll be there to protect them. And one of the reasons children also will not disclose, even in that beginning stage, even when this doesn't feel right, they think that they can handle it, but also they fear that if they tell you, you're gonna take stuff away. And so the internet is a big part of our interactions in this world. It just is. And so I think you should definitely have some type of game plan, some type of just if your child comes to you and says, there's a child predator, or they won't say that obviously, but they say somebody's bothering me online, stuff like that, a plan for how you want to investigate it, and then what you will do with further in terms of protection. Are you going to say, okay, no internet for the next month? Well, you say that, then the kid's not going to want to tell you, because how are they going to communicate? No, you can't use this, you can't, what I mean? So like, if you start taking away stuff because of child predators online, that's going to make your child feel like A, that they can handle things, and B, they're going to be less likely to tell you. So it's kind of a fine line about how you want to navigate that system. If a lot of parents just have a no internet or no social media, a lot of folks do that. So if you've already had that, then it's not a huge deal if your kid says, oh, I was on Zoom or something and somebody came online. They're gonna tell you, because they're not gonna be afraid you're gonna take something away that they don't already have access to. But if you kind of get a little bit upset, which would be upsetting, but again, you freaking out freaks out your kid, that they're gonna be less likely to tell you, if that makes sense. So have a game plan about, okay, if something happens with my kid, what are the parameters we're gonna put on the internet? How are we gonna beef up security in a way that will let my kid won't feel like, no, they're in trouble, they did something bad, oh, this is so obnoxious, I'm gonna be even more of a loser, and we'll also keep them safe. Number 2 relates to number 1, in that we want to normalize your child's feelings, their emotions, their curiosity. So again, it is normal for kids and teens to be curious about sex, be curious about bodies, and that they're going to seek out information because they have questions. So you obviously want to be the one that they come to and talk to about that with, and hopefully that they will. But you also can maybe pinpoint some resources that they can look at that are more appropriate if they have other types of questions. What you don't want, and when you're talking to them, is that you just don't want them to go online and communicate with people that they don't know to help them answer these questions, because typically those are people who are going to use that to then harm your child. So I think you can be pretty direct with your child about that, as a boundary. So yes, be curious and you can search and you want to know, but obviously you don't want your kids exploring any type of pornography, and you can have a conversation around why pornography is not a good thing, but also you want to just kind of put that very blanket statement, is like, these predators are really good about going into online spaces and spaces that are supposed to be protected and just being for kids, and so they will come out and try to be friendly, or gaming systems or whatever, and they'll be your friend, but if it starts veering into conversations around sex, that's when you know that that's a red flag. That most likely this person is not doing it because they are trying to help you. You are talking to your child and telling them. They are doing it because they are trying to engage with you and do something that's going to ultimately harm you. So again, that's why 1 and 2 are kind of related, because you do want to, talk openly and have a strong communication with your kid and normalize their feelings while also holding that boundary and protecting them. And number 3 is to use the appropriate internet safeguards to protect your child. So there are a ton of websites where you can actually search and see like what's the most up-to-date ways that you can kind of put safeguards on the internet. You can also set rules about websites and places that, like no social media, for a lot of families do that, or the safe searches and what words your child can type in, things of that nature. Yes, a lot of kids, they are more tech savvy than us adults, and so they kind of know how to get around those safeguards. But if you have 1 and 2 kind of taken care of, where you establish the communication, you normalize feelings, when you're talking with your child about the internet safeguards and the reason that they're on there, they're more likely to follow it and not kind of take those things off, because they understand that, wow, there's a lot of people out there who might be trying to hurt them. Child sexual predators, unfortunately, are a huge problem, but that's why it's important for you to use those tips that I listed above to help protect your child from those horrible people who are out there. So that is all I have for today's video. Comment down below if you have any, if you think I missed anything, or just sharing your thoughts about grooming or grooming online. Comment down below. I love hearing from you all. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye.